Hi guys, welcome back to Crafty Quilting Designs. I hope you're well and having a really fantastic day. I mean, it's a beautiful day here in London, and today is our next Quilt Sew Along Christmas block. All right, so we are on number 4. We're on number 4. Sometimes the week goes by so quickly that you snap and it's gone, We're in week number 4. Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you what we're making this week. All right, guys, so this week we're making 2 blocks, and yes, we still have another block next week. As promised, it is 5 blocks. Okay, now while I was making this particular block for this week, I thought I can just throw in another one there because we have time for it, number 1. Number 2, the block was relatively easy. It wasn't very difficult, and it's the same concept from the first block that you're going to make. So our first block today, all right, and we need 4 of this again. So we're making a bauble block, okay, and that is what it looks like. All right. Okay, so I wanted to just explain a few things about this. Well, one thing really. Now, if you wanted to change the print here, I have just used one solid print, and I thought it looked really beautiful. I'll just bring it a little bit closer. I thought it looked really beautiful, and the reason why I chose or opted for this particular print is because there were so many more colors on there, and the print was a bit large. Now, we know with baubles, they have so many different colors in them. If you wanted to make something that have different layers of colors, you could simply make a strip set. So make a strip set of about 1.5 inches of strips, and you can do a square size of 9 inches. All right, obviously once we stitch it together, it's going to trim down. The size you're looking for the block to make your bauble block is 7.5. So as I said, if you wanted to just use a strip set of different Christmas colors to show that variation of color with the baubles and beautiful, that's fine. But as I chosen just to do the one solid print, only because it looked like this, and I thought it looked absolutely beautiful. It does give the essence or the true picture of what a bauble block is. All right, so that is your block. Okay, now the second block, and again we need 4 of this one. The second one is a snowball block, and as I said, it uses the same concept of the bauble block. Okay, and as you can see it there. All right, so again we need 4 of this. All right, and I've gone through the explanation of how to make this in the video. Okay, so those are our 2 blocks, and as I said, we are doing another block next week. So well done to you, to those of you who have actually joined on board yet again and are actually having a really good time with this. I mean, I know I'm having fun with it. I hope you are. Okay, guys, so come on, hook me up, give me a shout out, let me know how you're getting on. Get that sort of communicating community going, so I know how you're doing. I love hearing from you. I'm feeling kind of lonely down here, and not much of you is getting involved and letting me know how you're carrying on. So, make my frown into a smile. All right, guys. Anyway, happy quilting. If you're still listening to me wobble on at this point in time, that actually tells me you're enjoying my videos. So please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and of course leave a message, because we are a lovely community that supports each other. So leave that message and let me know how you're getting on, and share your ideas, or if you've got another idea for a block, why not throw it in there? Let me know. We can probably do it. So that'll be really fantastic. All right, so let me take you through now how I actually made it. And again, I am not going to take this out. I'm going to leave it in there. That's just too much editing. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Okay, guys, so today I'm going to show you now how to make the bauble block. Okay, we need 4 baubles blocks in total, and I'm going to just give you an idea of selecting your fabrics for this particular one. Again, I am using fat quarters, and I'm just going to give you an idea of what they actually look like a bit closer to the camera. Now, again, we'll be using our usual tools that we've been using throughout the sew along process. So again, my pins, my rotary cutter, my small little 5-inch square ruler, and of course my 6-inch long ruler. Now, for the fat quarters, I'm going to be making, as I said, 4. I should say we'll be making 4 in total. However, I will do cuts for 2 because I've already made 2. Okay. Now, because baubles, as we know, are very colorful on the Christmas tree, I think we need to be thinking about contrasting colorful prints. Now, within saying that, try to make sure it complements each other. Okay, so I'm looking at these big prints, and I love this particular black metallic fabric here. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to be using this one for my main focus for that bauble block. Okay, this one is pretty beautiful as well. I also like the white, and I think I'm going to go with this one. This one is pretty as well, but I'm a little bit unsure about this because I feel the print is a little bit too busy. I think it will probably complement something else because obviously we've got more blocks to make still. So I think I will leave that one to the side. This one is also pretty, and I'm inclined to use this, but I think I'll leave that for there for now. This one is lovely. I can see these two working, but again, to me, it's a little bit busy for this focus fabric that I want here. Okay, so this is going to be the main area. So I think again, it's a little bit busy. Now, it complements not really nice with this one, actually. I'm liking that. But to me, I just feel that because these hollies here are a little bit tiny, they look a bit busy. I think I would go with these 3 here. I'm going to put those aside for other blocks that we're going to be needing. So I think I will go with these here for the 2 blocks that I'm going to make. Now, these are going to be the main focus of the actual print themselves. Okay, and when I say that, I'm talking about the main focus of the bauble block. So I'm going to be using these 2, and this one is going to be for my background color. Now, ideally, you can possibly get 4 from this, okay, for the main focus of the fabric. So 4 and 4, so 8 in total. If you didn't want to mix up the colors, I have used separate ones for my main focus of my baubles, okay? But I've also, for the 2 that I've already made, I've used the same background color, all right? And that will make much more sense to you once you actually see the outcome of the block. So as much as I'm not really happy with the white, I would have preferred it cream because most of my background color so far has been cream. This is going to be my first sort of off-whitish color, but I'll take a crack at it because I think one of the reasons why I do like it is that it's not too busy in contrast to these ones here. I think it works. All right, so what we're going to do now, as usual, is to iron our fat quarters, and again, that's to remove any pleats, etc., because we want our cuts to be lovely and straight. Yeah, I think that's definitely going to work. Definitely putting it like that, so I'm happy with that. I mean, with baubles anyway, they are very colorful and bright on the Christmas tree. So either way, you still can't get it wrong. It's really down to your perspective and how you look at it. But either way, I think it will look absolutely beautiful. But I would say if you got bigger prints on your fat quarters, yeah, I would say try and focus with that one. Or you can mix it up because I have done a little bit of larger prints and smaller prints as well. Okay, right, so let me go iron these and I'll come back and show you all of the cuts. Now there's a few bit of cutting for this one, and I would say cut them label them so that you don't get confused, and which is what I'll be showing you in sort of planning out and how to work with this particular block. So I'm going to go iron them out, get my little stickers to label all of the cuts so that we don't get ourselves confused. All right, so let's go do that now. Okay guys, so I've done all the cuts now. Now what I have done is label them from A to E. Now I've labeled all of my background fabric B so that I know that I'm working with the background when I select them. My first block is known as A, and the rest we will go through. Now you have two sets of cuts here because obviously I am making two blocks. So what I'm going to do is to remove one set so that it's easy and I don't get myself confused and use the wrong set of blocks. Put that there. Now what I would also say, as I said, to label them all up. Now I've done the background fabric as B so that it's easier. I'm going to give you the sizes now so that it is easier for you to sort of get your mindset around it. Now Michelle, I think it's Michelle Abbott, so thank you Michelle for suggesting that. She asked me once to put all of the sizes in the description box down below, and so I'm going to do that again this time. So that's a very good idea, Michelle, so thank you for suggesting that for me. It makes it much more clearer to everybody to actually know what they're doing and having not to actually stop the video and write it down, etc. All right, so I'm going to go through it now. So block A is your first big block, and that is 7.5 inch square. Okay, as I said, all of the background fabrics, I've identified them as B for background. So B, the first one, and what I've done also is lay them out in the order of which I'm going to use them. So I know I'm starting with this one here, so I'm going to start with my 7.5 inch block first. All right, so I'm going to go for the first one at the top, so I will suggest you do that also, is to label them and place them in the order of which you're going to use them. So for this one now I need 4 2¼ square, and again I'm going to place this right sides together, and these are going to be snowballed as usual. Okay, so right sides together here for the first thing. I'm going to go through each block in each step. So I wouldn't just go through the whole list. It's pointless doing that because I think had it been me I would have forgotten already, but as I use the blocks I will identify where they go. So first of all we have block A, which is 7.5, which is the biggest block, and then we're moving on to the second set of squares, which is 4 2¼ square, and again we're going to do the same thing. We are going to do some cornerstone, and again drawing the line from this point to that point there, and each of them, and as we've done throughout this sew along, is to pin the area in which we are going to cut off. Okay, so I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to sew yet again on that line and cut away 1/4 inch. So I'm going to do that now and then come back and show you the next step, and again identify the next set of subcuts to use to make the block. So now draw all of yours from point to point, okay, from there to there, there to there, there to there, and we're going to sew and then cut 1/4 inch off. Let's go do that now. Alright, so I've sewn all of these on now, and again I'm going to remove my pins. Okay, and again I have stitched them right sides together with my drawn lines, and I'm going to cut 1/4 inch off as normal. And if you've noticed, guys, we've used this technique quite a lot to make up the blocks. So it's very much repetitive skills that we're using here to make up all the blocks, so just keep that in mind. I like doing repetitive skills because that reinforces the learning. And there I go again, sounding like a teacher again. I can't even take it off my mind, can I? Even when I'm not at work, I'm still teaching. Okay, so what we're going to do now is set the seams as we've done for previous ones, and again try to your best to work with a low temperature iron, because what happens is that the blocks tend to wobble, and the ends there, they tend to get really distorted, and I absolutely hate when that happens. So again, set your seams. Remember, setting the seams allows the fabric to be relaxed, allows the thread to be relaxed. And we're going to turn it over front side down and just simply press that area there. I'm trying my best not to press there, because once you do the edges, they get distorted. So I'm literally just putting the heat on the seam there. And yes, my iron is steaming up because there is water in it, but to be honest, I am not actually pressing that steam button. Okay, so it does that anyway, because obviously there's water there. Right, so now that it's, and then I'm going to do it on the front again, just keeping it mainly on that area there, and not to go on the background fabric as much, because I don't want to distort it. And that's one of the reasons sometimes why you will find that your fabric will slightly bow, because the heat distorts it. And my iron's a little bit hot, it's not cooled down as yet, because I obviously preheat it. You forget sometimes to turn the iron on to get yourself organized, and it heats up. Okay, so the next step now is moving on to the other background fabric, and I think that's beginning to look good. That's the idea we're going with there. Okay, so the next one now is to take another background fabric, and again I'm working with B. So B fabric for background, the third fabric, so this is fabric 1, okay, or cut 1, subcut 2, subcut 3. So subcut 3 is 2 2.25 by 1.5. Okay, and these are rectangles, and I'll say it again, 2 2.25 by 1.5. Okay, I'm going to remove that, then I know I've used it. And the other thing we need to go for is fabric E. Now with fabric E, I have 2 here, and I only have 2 because obviously I am making 2 blocks. Okay, now with fabric E, I have elected to use pieces of fabric or colors of fabric that I've already used in my blocks. And again, that is to keep the color scheme throughout the whole quilt wholesome. All right, so I have black here and I have green. All right, so I think I'm going to go with this one for this particular one, and for the black I will use it for this one, because remember I am making 2 blocks. All right, now what happens with this one, we need to stitch these 3 together. So we moving to the background fabric of 2.25 by 1.5 rectangle, and our fabric E or subcut E is I forgot on my E. Oh yeah, subcut E is 4 inches by 1.5. Sorry, I apologize, my brain went there. Too much talking. Okay, so 4 inches by 1.5 rectangle, and that is your fabric E. All right, so again, front sides together there, and then front sides together, and then once we've done that, we are then going to stitch it to our main block there. And once you do that, you can already see that you're getting that bauble shape already. All right, so let's go do that now. So front sides together to sew this, and then we bring the whole thing together. So let's go do that now. Okay, so this is now been stitched on, and that's where we're at now. Okay, so I'm just gonna, again, the same thing that with this block, there is a few pressing in between, because obviously there's a lot of joints and we need it to lay nice and flat. And again, real importance for lowering that temperature. Okay, so don't put it too much of a high cotton, just really nice and low, and as you go along you can just give it a nice little glide on the front. Right, so as you can see, it needs trimming there, so I'm just literally going to trim this up so that it lays nice and straight. And on the next side, Now again, you haven't measured incorrectly. This is just the way I have done it. So just to make sure that, you know, everything, I prefer to trim off a little bit than to get it, and I've said this before, to get it right on the mark and it's slightly short, and then you have to pull. You know, sometimes I've seen people where they actually pull to join the fabrics together. And what tends to happen when you do that, you find that the fabric itself, or the quilt top itself, does not lay flat. You find it it's a bit raised. So I prefer to trim off the little excess rather than to force it if it's too short. Okay, so that's that one done there. So the next one now is to add these ones. And again, remember, background fabric being labeled B, and this is 8.5 by 1.5. Okay, so this is your other background fabric, which is 8.5 by 1.5 strip, and all we need to do is simply sew this front sides together. Okay, so again, front sides together on the side there. Come back, iron it again, set those seams, and everything will be fine. So let's go do that now. All right, so these now have been stitched on, and again, these are 8.5 by 1.5 strip. Remember, we are working in order. Okay, I have lined up all of my subcuts in the order of which I need them, so there's no mixing up. So put them in the order of which you are going to sew them. Right, so the same applies. You set your seams. Okay, I'm just finger pressing here, and then I'll come back and do the next one. So again, just flatten those seams down. Now, as I said before, with making this block, there is in the sort of objective to keep the block flat as you go. But again, aim not to actually put any sort of heavy heat, and I use the word heavy, but you know, very high heat temperature on there, because these are very thin strips, and as I said, they get distorted quite easily. All right, so we're moving on to the next one now. Again, so we are going to fabric C now. Okay, so I'm going to use one of my background fabric. Now I'm going to remove 2 from here because I only need 2 of these, and put that up there with the other ones so I don't get that confused. Okay, now the next step is going to be, now we have 2 objectives here. We can move with this bigger fabric, which is 9.5 by 3, and add on air, but again, I'm going in order, so I'm not going to rush it. Okay, I'm going to go in order of which I have laid out the fabrics, and this is, I'm showing you this method so that you don't get confused. Now I know how to make the block. I can just simply put any side I want together first, but I think if I show you in order, that way you remember it. Okay, so the next one that's in order now is 2 4.5 by 2 inches. Again, 2 4.5 by 2 inches. All right, so this one works with fabric C. Okay, now with fabric C, I have 2 pieces, and again, I have these 2 subcuts because I am going to use it, one for this one up here and one for this one. Now because I added green there, and I already have black for one of my subcuts up here for this particular one, I am going to work with the black here. For my C fabric now is 2 inches by 1.5, again rectangle. So my C fabric, or my C subcut, is 2 inches by 1.5, and I'm going to work with the black. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside for my next block, and coming back to my background fabric. Remember, all the background fabrics are labeled B. Okay, so I need 2 4.5 by 2, and again, all I'm simply going to do is add it on to here. that is simply it. So we're going to sew these again, front sides together, front sides together, and I'm going to then sew it front sides together on this one. So let's go do that now. Okay guys, so I've done this one now, and again, if you wanted to, again, fold it front sides together and fold this bit front sides together, crease it and line it up in the middle. Of course you may. Okay, now I just wanted to highlight the back of the actual block itself, and again, the importance of making sure you lay your seams nice and flat so that nothing is raised, so that the block itself at the front is nice and flat. Now when you stitch this on, again, make sure that these seams here lay open so that it is flat. Okay, the importance here is to think about the quilting so that we don't have a bumpy ride when we're doing that free motion quilting. All right, so again, set the seams. All right, and then now it is going to push this way, but I'm going to force it back. So it's going to push towards the green, but I'm going to force it back because I want it to stay really nice and flat there. So I'm just going to finger crease it first, and then I'm going to put the iron on it so it's nice and flat. All right, and again, my iron is not very hot, it's warm. All right, because I really want those seams to stay flat, and I also do not want to distort my block. All right, so look at that, it's coming together really nicely, isn't it? Looking beautiful. So again, just to go back to these smaller pieces of the sort of accent colors that we've brought in, and again, I've actually used, you know, pieces of fabric from previous blocks. All right, now the next partner, again, going in order of which I have laid out all of my background fabrics. I have this one here, and this one is 9.5 by 3 inches. Okay, so this background fabric, again, remember I've labeled them all beads for background, and this one is 9.5 by 3 inches, and this one simply fits at the bottom there. Okay, again, front sides together and you stitch it on. Right, now what I have done also is, rather than just to stretch the fabric, and I don't mean physically stretch the fabric, I mean in order to use the fabric wisely, what I have is where I can possibly, I joined up my subcuts. All right, so you can do that also. So front sides together, and what I would also advise is when you're sewing on the machine, put the block down. Okay, so don't sew this way where the block is facing you. Put the block down on the feed dogs, because the block is slightly biased, so you will get that stretch. So if you feel that your block is a bit big, which it wouldn't, okay, because all the cuts are accurate, just put it on the feed dog so that it takes it in equally. All right, so again, front sides together, 1/4 inch seam, and then we're going to open it up, press the seams again as normal. All right, so there we go. So seams are on there as usual. Set the seams. Remember I said there's a lot of setting seams with this particular one, and again, let it go, let the seam go where it wants to go. All right, turn it over, get it nice and smooth at the front. Again, remember that because we've got so many seams here, you're very much inclined to get pleats, you know, on the folds of the fabric. So just make sure that you have opened them up nicely. Now we're going down to the last backing fabric. All right, and this one literally goes on the side. Okay, so this one goes front sides together there, and front sides together there, and we're literally just going to do as we have done before, and that's simply to stitch it all the way down and then do our seams again. Now this one measures 12.5 by 2 inches. And this is your strip. So 12.5 by 2 inches. So again, front sides together and put your seams there. So let's go do that now. Alright guys, so we're almost there. We're getting very close to the end. So again, we're going to set our seams here. Just nice warm iron. Just flatten it all down just to relax those fibers, because we just had a machine. Just put lots and lots of holes into it. Okay, and then iron it, and again allow the seams to go where they want to go. Just hold it down. Right, turn it back onto the front side now. And just get rid of all of those pleats. Very, very important. Just really open it up. We haven't given it any steamers yet at the moment. We're simply just giving it a warm press. Now, we've got our last set of subcuts to add on, and these subcuts what I have used is the sort of same prints from the original focus fabric for our Bauble. All right, and these ones measure, we need 4 at 3.5 inch square. Okay, now because I have used black, I could simply now add the black there. And then we're going to snowball these onto the corners, and I quite like having the same fabric on the end. Okay, or if I wanted to, I can simply swap it out. So this is the benefit of doing all the cuts at the same time, you know, in the fabric choices that you want. So if you know you've cut it, all of them, you can just simply swap colors. All right, and then the black can go for this one up there. And that's what that will look like there. But I think I kind of like having the black on black, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm just going to remove this and put this back for its original fabric where it's supposed to be. And again, I'll repeat the size. So this is the last subcut, and we need 4 of 3.5 inch square. All right, and again, we're going to snowball. So front sides together, and you've seen this technique 100 times before. Front sides together, front sides together, and we're going to draw our line, and as usual, put the pin, because to me the pin is set as a reminder of the area in which you are cutting off. All right, so I'm going to get my pen, and I'm going to draw my line from this point to that point there. Okay, from both outer edges is where your line will go. And then again, you're going to, as usual, stitch on that line. And let me put my pin on the area in which I need to cut off. Right, now you can save these, because I have been saving them. They're really good cuts, because once you remove that, it's a really good cut to lose. So I've been saving those pieces. All right, so this is the last bit of the square, sorry, of the blob of the block. All right, so let's go do these cornerstones, then I'll come back and show you the end result. Okay guys, so yeah, that one is on now. So let's remove these pins and get rid of those extra triangles at the end there. Okay. So again, 1/4 inch away from the end. Now, as I said before, it's up to you if you want to save these, but I have been saving them. I think they're really pretty fabrics, number one. Number 2, it's a good bit of scrap to use at some point, so yeah, don't get rid of them. Probably we can do a scrappy something with Christmas later on, so don't get rid of them. Keep them. They're too beautiful to get rid of. Right, so those are done. Right, again, let's get those seams set. Now I've raised the temperature now because I know the ending of the block is coming up, and I want to actually put this to the side. I want to actually give it a nice good press and steam so that it lays nice and flat. Alright, so I'm going to put it down first, and again the same applies. I'm just really going to put it on the edge there, yeah, on that seam there, so that I don't distort the edges, so that it's nice and flat there. Just rubbing that down, and you can see the steam coming out already. I cannot wait. There we go. So again, just pressing down all those seams. I can see they're all lovely and flat. And now we're going to turn it over and give it a nice lovely press. Isn't that a beautiful block? Look at that. Okay, nice and glided all the way over. Get rid of all of those pleats. Don't want any pleats or folds there. Just really open it up and spread it apart so that the block lays flat. I'm just gliding it. And my objective here is to get it so that I can glide it over. If I know I can glide it over, then I know all of those seams are really laying beautifully flat and I have no issues. Okay, and that looks good to me. Okay, absolutely gorgeous. So let's have a look at it now. Get rid of that. Okay, so the next thing to do is to just get rid of all of those little threads that's hanging out, and you know that really annoys me, I swear. It really does annoy me. Don't like them at all. But I know that's where the sewing machine is actually cutting for me. So right, let's measure this. I actually do think the block doesn't need trimming. Everything looks nice and straight. There is no bowing anywhere. Usually there's a little bit of bowing. Today I did good. And as I said, because when you put the fabric on those corners, those snowball corners, that's where you tend to get those bowing. So just be careful of that. So let me measure the block so that you know what size your block should come up as. So I have literally a 13-inch block. Let's do this side again. I like to measure both sides. And just measure that side again, just to ensure I read that correctly. No, tell a lie. It's not 13. I put my glasses on. It is 12.5. There you go. I thought, what? The others were 12.5. Where did I get 13 from? There you go, 12.5. Let me just measure this side just to be on the safe side. Yes, it is 12.5, guys. So 12.5, you need 4 of these. Okay, now that is what it looks like. Absolutely beautiful. You can actually see the bauble shape, and of course once I add this one in, it will be the same fabrics or layout for the block. Alright, so the next block is going to be a snowball block. Okay, now this one is relatively easy, hence the reason I thought we can add 2 blocks within this week's tutorial. Alright, so we need a 7.5-inch square to start off this one, and I have a little bit of my leftover fabric here from my fat quarter, and I'll just put these to the side there, and I'm just going to cut 7.5 inch. Now I haven't mentioned this before, but I just thought I'll mention it as I was just started to cut this here, and I thought I'll do it on camera just so that you're aware. When you are cutting your fabrics, make sure you're cutting opposite your selvage. And you can see my selvage here in case it's a little bit too distant from the camera. Okay, so you can see the edges there, that it's not the actual fabric in reference to the edge of the print. All right, so that is your selvage up there, and I'm cutting from this side. So I'm cutting down from the side because I know it's the strongest. If I were to cut this way, can you see the difference in how that flexes there? So that's the bias. All right, so just cut opposite the selvage, and that way you know you're cutting on the correct grain. All right, how else should I get you to if you haven't got the selvage, then all you need to do is pull the fabric. So if I pull the fabric, it's a little bit bouncy still, but if I pull it this way, can you hear the difference? Yeah, so it's very loose till I can still stretch it from this angle here, which is not opposite the selvage. But if I were to pull it or to flex it opposite, you make a different sound, so you can actually get that a lot more easily. Okay, so just remember that when you're cutting your fabrics. If for some reason you've cut both ends of the selvages off and you think, oh my god, I can't remember where, just do that test. And that's one of the simplest tests I teach my students, so that they are able to pick up the area in which they need to cut from. All right, so I'm just going to smoothen this back out. Right, so going back to our cuts, we need 7.5 inch to make the snowball, and I'm literally just going to cut it slightly bigger so that I can just trim it down properly. And I like to do that. That's just my way of doing things. Just cut it down slightly bigger, because sometimes the edges are not straight. So rather than mess time around, so I know these two here is straight and that is straight, so I just need to focus on this end here and that end there. And I'm just going to turn it and turn it again, so I have this end and that end there together, and then line up my 7.5 on this end here. Okay, so I'm lining up here and lining up there and just cutting off the extra fabric. As you can see, it's not much, and that's how literally close I cut it, just to make sure I'm not wasting the fabric, because I really hate wasting fabric. All right, so I'm just going to tighten my blade. So we need 7.5. Now you need some contrasting fabric for this one, and I've chosen a light, so we need 4 2-inch squares. I'm just going to snowball the corners there, and the usual. Now throughout this quilt top we have used the similar techniques throughout. We've used half square triangles, we've done this snowballing effect quite a lot. Okay, so again, right sides together, and we're going to sew from that point to that point, that point to that point. Okay, once you've done that, again, just be mindful of when you are ironing your corners that you're not ironing the edges there, because that's when the fabric can get a little bit distorted, and to use a very gentle heat. Okay, so not a high heat. The next step is to cut from your same fabric for your 2-inch squares. You just need 1.5 inch strips. I'm going to do that now. Just pull that to the side nice and gentle and line it up. I've already cut from this particular fabric here, so I'm just going to tap it and just tease it there so that the edges line up nicely. And I'm just going to cut my 1.5, and I'm going to use my 1.5 ruler there, so it's a lot more easier. And there you go, that's all lined up now. I'm very precise about my cuts. I don't like it, so I don't like even a slight edge off. I like making sure it's nice and straight. So I'm going to do another one again. And basically all we're going to do, once we have snowballed all of the corners, we're literally going to then sew these 2 strips around the square yet again. So I'm going to do all those steps at the same time. This is a really beautiful, simplistic block. So again, we have 7.5. We've got 2 inches squared on each corner, and we're going to add our 1.5 strips all the way around. Okay, so let's go do that now. Alright, so that snowball has been created. Our next step, as I said, is to simply sew this on around there. So we're going to trim that off, and again, you can measure it to the exact size. As I said, it's a very simplistic block, so let's measure that and see what it is. And ideally, it should really be 7.5, which is exactly what it is. Alright, so cut your strips, sew them on, and then go all the way around. And let me go do that now, and I'll come back and show you the next step. Alright, you can see that this one is completed now, and I've added on the 1.5 inch strips around it, and I wanted to keep the same color or the same print on the border as on that inner border, just to highlight again that shape there. Now this block needs to measure 9.5, and let's see if we've achieved that. Right, so I'm going to use sort of the center of the block, and it's slightly off. There's a little bit of trimming that is required, and not much, but just a little smidget down there, and I think up there is fine. So I'm just gonna align it to the best of my ability. Yeah, literally, it's literally just smidgets that just need trimming up to a 9 inch, I'm sorry, a 9.5. And again, you can leave that, but I'm going to trim it down. I'm just going to trim it down so that it's nice and tidy, and I know that everything is aligned properly. Okay, so that bit's done. So just check these sides now. So I'm going to check this side and this side now, see how that lines up. So 9.5. Yep, so it's just up there that needs sorting out. Yep, and then I think we're good there. Right, lovely. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is add on a final border around this block. As I said before, it's quite simplistic, and yet again the same applies when it comes to pressing these blocks. So again, you set your seams, ensure that all of the seams are laying nice and flat, and I've done that already. And again, I have lowered my temperature on the iron. Now what I usually do if I want to align a block in terms of different colors around it, I tend to fold the fabric roughly to the size that I actually want it to be, and I just line it up against it, so then I can sort of get a more informed idea as to what I want my border around this particular block to look like. The red looks fine. I have no objective in actually using it. However, because I've used it there already, and I've already used it in the Bauble block, I just want to give it a little break, so I think I'm going to remove that. Okay, so far the black looks really lovely. It's a strong color, and again it allows you to focus on that middle fabric there. Now let's look at this one and see what this one comes out like. Again, this one has very much similar colors in the red, but it plays on that one there, so it doesn't really capture your attention. Again, it still draws your eyes there, but I think it's a little bit busy there because I just want the focus to be on that block when you actually see it. So I think I'm going to remove that one. I'm going to try one more. Oh well, at least 2 more then. Let's go for 2 more and see what actually happens. So I have this solid, well, I wouldn't say solid green, but it's this more prominent Christmas green here, and again it's a metallic green, so with holly leaves with little dots of red in it, and I'm liking that one. That looks good. I'm happy with that. That looks good. That looks very good. I'm happy with that, as well as the black, which I know But I'm liking that one with this one as well, because I think it allows you to still focus on that. Let's try this one here and see what this one comes out like. And again, now I feel that these are a lot more background focus colors, and not so much. I don't want it to just disappear into it. I still want the block to be prominent, so that you can really capture your eyes. I mean, for me, a Christmas quilt represent those beautiful bright colors, because Christmas is all about the colors, isn't it? It's very bright and cheerful. I mean, at the time of the year, it's cold and dull, and you know, so I think hence the reason why all those colorful, attractive lights is there. So I'm going to go with this particular one, and we need 2.5 strips to go around this. Again, I can see my salvage up there, so I know I'm cutting from this end, and I'm not going to cut there because that's my bias edge. And if I cut on that bias edge, but then I know the edge of my border around my block here is going to be wobbly, especially if I add my hot iron on the end of it. Woo! You know that's going to stress me out. So just ensure that it is, you're cutting opposite that salvage so you don't get that bias cut. So we're going to cut 2.5, and I'm just going to cut off this little bit here that's already on its way out, in the sense that I've already started cutting from there. So I'm going to trim that bit off. My room is so untidy, guys. There is fabric everywhere, but I will tidy up. I mean, it is a working room. That's how I see it. That's what Carl said to me. It is a working room, but I have to tidy down after each project. So once this project is over, I will then tidy down. I do tidy in between. But when I say tidy, I probably will more or less fold things, put things aside. I don't do a proper tidy up. So I don't like seeing the fabrics all over the place. To me, that's untidy. But when I say tidy up, I mean put everything away. You know, clean the machine, pack away the threads, put everything back in its original place. But for now, I will just fold the fabrics and just tidy up the room a little bit so that I feel refreshed. I think with your space being nice and tidy, it allows you to be very creative. You know, it doesn't, and for me, I need things to be in order for me to concentrate and to get the ideas. So 2.5, so that's 1. And again, my salvage on this side, can you see that white little flurry edges there? So just be mindful of those little things so that you're not cutting on the bias. And again, this one, you know, I haven't measured this, you know, I know because it's a simplistic block, so I'm simply just going to measure it on the block as it is. Okay, so of course we know the first cut is going to be 9.5, and then when we add on the next 2, once we stitch it on, it's going to reduce it by half. Okay, so again, simplistic maths, so I wouldn't bother you know, work that out for you, but I'm going to stitch in here and then continue and stitch all the rest around, and then come back and show you the finished block. Okay guys, so I've stitched on all of the edges now. Now we're going to give it a good press, and as usual, we go back to the things I say on a regular basis to ensure that the block is nice and flat. Let's start from the back, and you're going to have to bear with me a little bit with, you know, repeating myself, because it's the teacher in me. I cannot help repeat myself in terms of making sure, because these are the important points here, and if everybody gets it right, then everyone blocks is going to be accurate. So just make sure, again, we want to lay the seams nice and flat, because I obviously quilt my quilts, so I know the pitfalls when it comes to, you know, if the blocks are not flat. So that's one thing I actually ensure, especially on the back. Yeah, and again, where you have seams, you tend to get folds, so just ensure again that everything is pulled out nicely. Now, isn't that a very simplistic, beautiful block? Absolutely gorgeous. Look at that, all the colors contrast really nicely with each other. And that's the importance of, you know, just laying your fabrics together and ensuring that everything is contrasting and it all works together. They complement each other. A simplistic block, but yet it works. And these are the things we need to consider when we're choosing our fabrics. Now I can feel a little lump there. You may not be able to see it. So you see, I can feel it already turned up. So I'm just going to go back on that side and hold it down there so that it stays flat. And you know, if you don't sort these problems out when you actually put the batting on, it's too late by then. It really is too late, because then the needle has to go through that. Your darning foot has to glide over it. So, and then it's bumpy and it's rough and you can break the needle. So just ensure that at this stage the block is flat. The fabric lays really nice and flat. I'm going to turn it up a little bit so I can give it some steam, just to help that block again. And again, as usual, just make sure all those folds are no longer there, that is removed from the fabric. And you can see how easy it is. It's gliding over the fabric with the iron. So alright, so that's it for our second block. So today we made 2 blocks and we need 4 of each. Alright, isn't that absolutely beautiful? I'm just loving the fabric. You know, you got your large print there, your medium print and your smaller print in the middle. And again, these are little things you can actually play on. If you can't play on the colors, then try working it so that you can actually play with the prints in the fabric. So large, medium, small, you know, or that radiating color. So you got that beautiful red in the middle. You got this color here that helps blend in to show that snowball effect. Okay, and then you have your last fabric out there to frame it. All right, so let's push that aside. So today we've made 2 blocks. All right, and let's measure this one. This looks like a 13 to me. Well, I haven't measured it, but let's see if my guessing is correct. It is 13.5 exactly. All right, so we're looking at a 13.5 for this block. Exactly. Okay, so there you go. Absolutely lovely. So 4 of these blocks, which is going to take you a very limited amount of time to make. And again, you can see that I've played with the same colors throughout, picked up the same fabric there, and again on the others, which you will see at the end of the whole quilt, where I've again used the same fat quarters throughout to make the quilt top. Okay guys, so that's it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you actually enjoyed this video, come on guys, leave me a message. Let me know how you're getting on with making all of your blocks. It's really exciting with all of this planning and preparing for the blocks. I cannot wait to see the end result. So again, happy quilting guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.